Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show for Around the Schott today. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis is always joined by two fantastic members of the Ohio State beat. But Landis, I bet people didn't know that we could go around more than one building.
You can, and in fact, it's easier to go around the Schott because it's all connected. There's no gaps like there are in the shoe.
Oh yeah, that would be dangerous to have a gap in a basketball arena, I think. We're talking hoops. We're talking Ohio State basketball. It's that time of year. Ohio State with a big game on Super Bowl Sunday that we'll talk about a little bit, but we're joined by two fantastic experts, Adam Jardy of the Columbus Dispatch and Connor Lamons of Land Grant Holy Land. Adam Jardy, how long have you been covering Ohio State basketball? And thanks for your time, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Well, this is my 11th season with the Dispatch, but I know. But my time covering the program goes back. I started the 05-06 season was the first time I covered any hoops. So I've gotten to see some really great highs for the program and some difficult stretches of basketball. So it's been a few minutes, but happy to be here.
The highs, the highs were back then. And the more difficult. But there's still an opportunity for highs. Connor Lamons, how long have you been around the basketball Buckeyes, hanging out there at Land Grant Holy Land?
I've been with Land Grant since 2019. I started covering the men's hoops team during the 21-22 seasons. This is my fifth year covering in person. And yeah, similar. I've been to two NCAA tournament games, I think, in 5 years. One maybe, Adam. So
Okay. Landis, how long have you been around the basketball Buckeyes?
I became the beat writer for Cleveland.com the year after D'Angelo Russell. So was that 15-16? Ari got the D'Angelo Russell year. Yeah. Ari got the Russell year when they went to the tournament. And then I got the last 2 years of Thad. And then all the Holtman era. And then it was like kind of off and on from there. So I have not been covering them consistently that entire time. But that's when I started covering them. Yeah, 15-16.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about basketball much because I don't really know about it anymore. If there are David Lighty questions, I will chime in. We'll start with coming off this Ohio State basketball loss to Michigan on Sunday. I wrote it down, fellas, because I'm a professional. 15-8, 7-6 in the Big Ten, and a three-way tie for ninth. Jardy, does that sound right to you? Is that the correct record of the team?
Yeah. As far as I know, I'm going to trust you on that one.
First question, what is their record? Around the Schott. What does everybody know the record of the team that we're talking about? Seems like firmly on the bubble at this point for NCAA tournament chances when you look at things, right? Some maybe just out, some maybe just in. I think a lot of projections, maybe 11 Big Ten teams have a chance to make the tournament because of the depth of that league, and they're kind of like the 11th right now. So our question, Adam, is this: what would you say is the percent chance that Ohio State basketball is going to wind up in the NCAA tournament?
I'll put it at 66.7%. I think it's about a two-thirds. That's all. That's as far as my math skills go. They continue to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they lose to the teams that they're really not supposed to beat. And the way the schedule plays out going forward, I think they will continue to beat the teams that they should beat. They're going to rack up enough wins that should put them right in contention. And then they've got to beat one or two teams that they haven't beaten that kind of team yet this season. So I think they're good enough to do that. I think the schedule sets up to put them in position to still do all of those things. But I do think there's a chance they could fall short because they've just not been able to get that signature win yet.
Yes. All right. 2/3, 66.7. Connor, what's your number?
I'm just off that. I'm at 60%. Everything that Adam said, I think is correct. I think that the schedule puts them in a position where they don't need to make some crazy run or some crazy push to make it. They have to take care of business against the teams, like he said, that they're expected to, and they're going to have to pick off like one of those big Purdue, Michigan State, something like that. Maybe I'm a little bit lower than Adam, although 60 still seems pretty good. Their defense lately concerns me a little bit that they could perform poor enough defensively in one of those games where they're supposed to take care of business, that if they drop like a Penn State road game or like Wednesday against USC, that puts you in a sticky spot.
Yeah. Landis, what's your number?
Yeah, I'm lower. I think people listening should trust what these guys say more than me because they've been around the team all year and have a better feel for it than I do. But I'm at like 45% because I don't know that I am super confident in their ability to kind of steal the one game that I think they need to steal to get there. I was looking through a thing CBS Sports did last year when UNC got into the tournament and everyone was mad because UNC was 1-12 in their quadrant one games, and they ranked the worst quadrant one resumes to make the tournament since we started doing tournament selection this way. And everyone they ranked had at least a quadrant one win. And I don't know that Ohio State's gonna have one. They're 0-7 right now. There are 4 left on the schedule. I mean, I guess there's like an outside chance that the UCLA win could become that, but UCLA still has to climb like 8 spots to become quadrant one, and UCLA's next 3 games are against Michigan, Michigan State, and Illinois. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So maybe I'm being prisoner of the moment because I was at that game on Sunday when they just got, in my opinion, like run off the floor by Michigan, which might be the best team in the country. But I don't know that I feel great about Ohio State beating Virginia, Michigan State, Iowa, or Purdue, or in lieu of that, stringing together a couple of neutral site wins in Chicago in the Big Ten tournament that would qualify as quadrant one wins too. So I don't know that like sheer win accumulation, which would like in Ohio State's case could be like 20, 21 wins without a quadrant one win is going to be enough to get them there.
So they have been close. They've had a quad one win for part of the season. And oddly enough, it's the win at Northwestern that had aged well, even though Northwestern's 10-14 and has they've fallen off significantly. Since the Big Ten play started, I think they're 2-11 in the league right now. So like not great, but that win has aged well, and so I do think there's a chance they could back their way into a quad one win if Northwestern's able to like beat, like I think they got Maryland and Oregon and like Minnesota. Like if Northwestern's able to win a few of those, and this doesn't change like the body of work, but it does change how the body of work ends up getting sorted.
Because Northwestern would have to get to 75, right, for that to be.
I believe so. Yeah.
They're 79 right now. Yeah.
So when you look at them, 0-7 in quad one, 4-1 in quad two. Bill, as you said, 4 quad one games left of the remaining 8 on the schedule, plus whatever happens in the Big Ten tournament. Adam and Connor, like you guys talked about, like needing to knock off one of these big ones. Like Connor, is one quad one win, would that be enough? Bill, you were talking about like that UNC record 1-12 or whatever it was. Do we think Connor one quad one win would get them there? Do they have to get 2 quad one wins? What's the number?
It's more in the context of what's around them. I think if you look at like the bracket matrix all year long, which I'm sick in the head. I've been looking at the bracket matrix like every single day since Christmas. And without a quad, like they've been hovering in that like high 11 seed. Like really they've been bouncing back and forth from, are you an 11 seed who has to play in Dayton? Or are you the 11 seed that doesn't have to play in Dayton for like a month now? And so I think it's more in the context of who they're fighting for those spots. And so if they were able to grab a win over Purdue, which Jake Diebler's 2-0 against Matt Painter, so maybe it's a bit, or maybe there's something going on there, but they got Purdue at home. Maybe it's Virginia neutral site. I do think that if assuming they win those games they're favored in, then like, a win against Purdue or like a win on the road at Michigan State, I think that probably boosts you up to the point where you probably are safe and you'll get to like 20 or 21 wins. I think, they might just need one of them.
Okay. Like Adam,
what about sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
What about the pit loss? And what if that slips in the quadrant 3?
That's the one. Really, like that's the thing that if certainly you could flip like 2 or 3 games by the matter of 5 points. They lost to Pitt by 1, they lost to North Carolina by 1, they lost to Nebraska by 3. You know, the difference of 5 points is this team like being a 6 or 7 seed potentially, and then being what they are or projected to be right now, like is significant. But it's that pit loss is the thing that is dragging this down, because that's just a gross loss. And for them to overcome that, that's if they had won that game, they'd be safely in. Even if they take Carolina loss, all the other losses, they would be safely in if not for the Pitt loss. So that is the thing that is like anchoring the resume below the line right now, or right at the line. That's why I do think they got to pick somebody off and kind of make up for that.
So Adam, as you and Connor talk about the idea of picking somebody off, if they need to do it, the team that you've watched, do they feel capable of doing that in your mind? That is this like a huge ask to win one of these quad one games down the stretch? Or you've talked about all these close games. Are they very capable of that on any given night?
I'm surprised they haven't done it yet, frankly.
Okay.
I mean, they've had enough close calls. I mean, you're beating Carolina by 4 in the last minute on a neutral, and you end up, or by 3, and you end up losing by 1. Like they were right in it with Nebraska right up until, the very end. They lose by 3. They were in it with Illinois at home. Like they were tied 50-50 with Michigan with about 9 minutes to go at the Chrysler Center, and Michigan pulls away late. Michigan's elite. I do think they're there. I think these opportunities are real, and it's not, you're not saying, man, you got to go out and, pull off the unthinkable. Like, I think it's well within expectations for this team that they should be able to pick off 1 or 2 of these teams. And so I'm just kind of surprised they haven't yet, because they've been there.
Okay. I agree. And I mean, if you look at how they played against UCLA, not to jump in and cut you off, Doug, but they led pretty, I think, wire to wire, Adam, right, against UCLA. If they trailed UCLA, it was for only a minute or 2. They were up by 15-ish points for the majority of that game against UCLA at home. And then do you think that Purdue is 15 to 20 points better than UCLA? I agree with Adam. Like, they are capable of doing it. They just have to play the full 40, because in some of these games they've signed up for 36 or 37 minutes, and the other team signed up for 40.
Okay. All right, let's go to question number 2. Connor, we'll start with you. Who's the most important Ohio State player for the rest of the season?
I think it's probably John Mobley Jr. I think that teams have him at the top of their scouting report because of his three-point shooting ability and how deep he can shoot from. I think if Junie is able to knock down shots, it opens up everything else for everybody. And Diebler and Holtman have both loved this phrase, like the gravity that Junie pulls with him, that teams have to have a defender within a foot or 2 of Junie, which gives other guys opportunities to have like one-on-one matchups, which if you give Bruce Thornton or Devin Royal one-on-one matchups and they can get into their spots, you really like their ability to do that. If Junie can't get shots or isn't hitting shots, teams don't necessarily need to respect that. He's had a couple stinkers lately and losses where he had, I think, 3 against Washington. He had 4 against Michigan. He had 9 against Wisconsin, all losses. So his ability to hit shots and kind of force defenses to push out towards the perimeter and open things up, I think that's crucial moving forward.
Okay. Landis, who you got?
I'm going to say Christoph Tilly. I was double checking, and it's always an important thing to look at with these up transfers, like what's going to translate, what's not, right? And some of the things have translated for him, right? Like the offensive rebounding, I think, is translated. The assist rate is translated. He's a good playmaker for a big man. He's actually drawing more fouls in the Big Ten than he did at Santa Clara, which I think is interesting, getting to the line more. But his defensive rebounding hasn't translated, and his rim protection hasn't translated. And I think, you need your 7-footer, I think, playing with a little more force and a little bit more of a physical presence, especially, I think, on the defensive glass for Ohio State, which is, not a tremendous defensive rebounding team, just sort of generally. If they can get him to be a little more locked in, I think primarily in the defensive rebounding area, and then also he's made a couple threes the last couple games. Like if he's going to do that too, that obviously can open up a whole lot for the offense. It's a heck of a thing to have a 7-footer that you can play up top and play make and shoot a little bit. And I think he definitely has that in him. And his 3-point shooting has been poor for most of the year, but it has been decent in the past and it looks pretty good the last couple of games. Like if that's starting to round into form, that can be a pretty big difference maker for Ohio State. So I think there's a number of guys you can go with this question, but I picked Tilly.
Adam, what you got?
Well, that's a great point on Tilly's 3-point shooting. And I do think like I've been looking for him to like regress to the mean at some point, like in a positive direction, because he's not this bad of a 3-point shooter. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that the last couple of games. So that's a really good point. The guy I'm gonna go with Devin Royal, because I just feel like it's not fully like consistently clicked for him in this position change. Like there was a stretch there. I mean, between, I've got the numbers in front of me, but it's like starting with the Western Michigan game on November 20th and going all the way until the overtime win against Minnesota. Like he was in double figures in every one of those games. And going into that Minnesota game, he was shooting almost 40% from three and was, the rebounding wasn't quite there, but he was making the position change make sense. Like he was scoring from the perimeter. They're giving up some stuff inside with him, but he was hitting from deep, and he just hasn't looked like himself the last 5 or 6 games. And I mean, the 3-point shooting is down. Like in his last 6 games, he's 2 for 20. So he went from shooting like 40% to like, I think he's at 31.5% now. So like they need him to be like just a steady physical presence. And I think a lot of times when they talk about like, Diebler was pretty pointed about they were not physical enough. They couldn't match Michigan's physicality on Sunday. Like some of that is Devin, and it's not just on him, but like moving him to the wing was to be able to take advantage of his physical gifts on the perimeter and play bigger. And it hasn't always worked. So I think they need him to be just more consistent across the board, because he's one of the 3 guys that is supposed to be, really, really driving this engine.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys both,
yeah, go ahead.
like, just because you would know better than me, the prospects of Brandon Knoll like actually returning this year in a meaningful way is that on the table, or is that just kind of pie in the sky? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's an expectation he will be back potentially before the end of the regular season. Now, how you integrate somebody back into the lineup after they've missed 2 months of Big Ten play, and suddenly like you're about to play Indiana on senior day, and it's probably a playing game for the tournament. Like there's some real questions I think about like what that looks like. But yes, there is from a physical like recovery standpoint. Yeah, he's on track to get back before the season ends.
I think during the radio show today, he said like we finally are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with Brandon. And he said like, so we're going to welcome back obviously that physicality and size he brings. So to me, that sounds like what Adam said was like, they totally anticipate him playing at some point, but I think he was still in the boot yesterday or recently. Yeah. So probably not immediate.
Yeah. Still in the boot, but walking in the boot, which is a important distinction. Like when I saw him at Maryland on Thursday, still like on the scooter thing that, you see the guys in, or with the crutches, but like he was walking without crutches on Sunday at the Schott, which I thought was a notable development.
Sounds like kind of a pirate thing. Like, how's Brandon doing? He's still in the boot. Because I think they used to call that the pirate jail. They called that the boot. So like, but maybe they'll get let out of the boot at some point.
That's a trunk in Britain. The boot of your car.
Oh yeah, he's in the boot. It's like, oh my God, who put him in the boot?
Let him out.
Let him out.
Did anybody consider saying? I'm sorry, Doug. Did anybody consider saying Tayson Chapman?
No, not for a second.
No, I didn't. No,
I'm just wondering. Like they need a bucket. They need a bucket off the bench, right?
It's that is
you can do it.
That's a great point, though. I was thinking about that today because, like, I really thought coming into the season his development could be big. When you talk about them not really having like a 3 behind Devin, like I really thought that Tayson's size allows them to do like a 3-guard lineup. He could Tayson can play the 3 with Bruce and Junie, and then either it's Amari Bynum or Brandon Knoll or Devin Royal at the 4. Like I thought there was real potential for that. It hasn't really come to fruition, but like the way Tayson has played lately, if he played 20 minutes yesterday against Michigan, like if he can continue producing and playing that volume of minutes, then that could impact, like I said, Devin. Like maybe they could play Devin a little more closer to the basket and he can do some things. So there's some wrinkles there if he continues to play like this, where certainly he'd be a fair guy to mention.
Okay, let's go to question number 3. Bill, we'll start with you. This is a big picture question, and everyone had to study and look things up and double check their knowledge about every other team in the conference. It's the 18-team Big Ten Conference. Where would you rank Ohio State among the basketball programs in the Big Ten? And again, whenever I think about program, that doesn't exactly mean just necessarily right now in the standings. Where would they be coach, culture, resources, recent past, future, where they are now, the program. We know they're in a 3-way tie for 9th. This is, by the way, Big Ten, Bill, good at ball, good at basketball. Basketball conference.
I hear it's the best conference in the country.
It's not.
My God. It's not? What? It's not?
It's often not when coaches say
What?
that.
Is the SEC good at basketball still? Is the SEC, is that a real thing? Is that 1 year thing?
It was elite last year, the best single season for any conference ever. It's not as good this year. I think the SEC and Big Ten are running neck and neck, but I think they're all kind of jockeying for position behind the Big 12.
Okay. As long as it's not the SEC. All right, Bill, where does Ohio State rank among basketball programs in the Big Ten?
I kind of think where the standings tell you they do. I know that's at the spirit of the exercise, but I would say right in the middle, eighth or ninth. Programs that I think are definitively better without question. I would say Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, and I would probably say Wisconsin and Iowa right now. And Iowa just fired Fran, but Iowa is they were a pretty regular tournament appear under Fran, and they're probably going to make it this year with Ben McCollum. So they haven't really lost any momentum. I think you'd have to say Nebraska's better right now, and it's not just a one season snapshot. This is a 3rd straight year with 20 wins. They were in the tournament 2 years ago. They're going to make it again this year. There's clear upward trajectory there under Fred Hoiberg, and probably UCLA. They're new to the Big Ten, but they've been good since they've gotten into the Big Ten, and prior to that, they were good. So I don't know how you'd feel very confident saying that Ohio State is better than any of those 8 programs right now. So I'll put them at 9th, and I think they're pretty firmly middle of the pack in the league right now.
Okay. Adam, where would you put them?
So we're talking, this was like you said, historical context or just in the moment?
So I would say it's not just who would win a game today,
right?
But it's what happened in 1986 doesn't matter. But when you think of the best programs, maybe 3-year, 5-year snapshot, sort of everything that goes into that. But again, also just it's made up. This is all made up, Adam.
It can be whatever you want.
And the points don't matter.
That's
right.
The
point. Yeah.
All right. So I have Michigan, Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, Indiana, definitively ahead of Ohio State. I think it gets a little muddy after that. I think I want to put USC there, or excuse me, UCLA ahead of Ohio State, because I think historically it is, but I'm really starting to believe that the West Coast teams are just always going to be a step back. Going forward, I'm putting them a notch below where I think they should finish every year in the preseason, because it is proving to be very real for those programs, trying to compete in the constant travel and all the side effects that they're dealing with, even from a recruiting standpoint. I think it's just going to get harder and harder for those programs. So I would put UCLA historically there, but I think right now I would not want that job. So
it's a good way to think of it.
So, I mean, I think probably 6th or 7th, because I do think there are resources and there's support. But I don't think that I'm talking myself out of 6th or 7th right now, because as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that Ohio State's not anywhere near that when it comes to NIL and resources from a financial standpoint. So I've just talked myself out of it. I'm going to say 8th or 9th, because they're just
welcome.
From a financial standpoint, they're just not there. And that's the thing.
And that's how you have to at least partly think about it in this new era, right? We're all trying to figure out what that means and how much you're spending on stuff. Connor, where would you have them?
Until Adam just swerved left there at the very end, I had verbatim the same thing written down. I had Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, Indiana, then Ohio State. So 6.
Okay.
I was thinking Nebraska, Iowa, but not to dump on Fran McCaffrey while the body is still warm, but like I don't think he ever made it to the second round of the tournament at Iowa. So he did get there a lot. I don't think they had really tournament success though, and I love what Hoiberg's doing at Nebraska now, but I think before I could say that Nebraska basketball is a better program than Ohio State, more big view, I would need to see Nebraska be like competitive and in the tournament probably for like a couple years, because I'm not familiar with Nebraska's really program history in the long term, but I don't think that historically they've been like a fantastic basketball school, have they? Like Adam or
they've never won a tournament game, right?
I would say that's my favorite random fact. They're the only high major team that's never won a conference or a big NCAA tournament game.
So like Nebraska, Iowa are better, I think, this year, but I would probably need to see another year or two at least of like sustained success to say like macro view, like, yeah, they're better programs. So I would keep them at 6, I think, right now.
Okay. Man, they're going to go wild if they win a tournament game this year. It's going to be super exciting for those guys.
Absolutely. The interesting one too, none of us mentioned this, but Maryland, I think is a fascinating job in the context of this league, because like we all, I think, can agree that like Maryland would like still be doing really well in the ACC, and it just feels like it would be a better program, better fit in the ACC. And like, I don't know what Buzz is doing to that program this year, but it's shocking where Maryland is. Because Buzz is not a bad coach by any means, and to see them fall off the way that they have fallen off this year, being there on Thursday, I've never seen that arena anything less than packed to the rafters and loud and just intimidating. And it was boring in that crowd. So I don't know what's going on there, or what the trajectory looks like there, but I'm shocked with where the Terrapins are right now.
I couldn't believe there were empty seats there. Every time I've gone there, it's been a house of horrors for Ohio State. And it's like, there's nobody here, and Ohio State won by 20. It's like, what world are we living in?
I mean, I always flash back to you and I standing outside that locker room after they lost 100-65. And just like, they didn't come out of that locker room for a long time. You and I just stand there like, well, this was cool.
glad we made the trip.
Yeah. I'm not keeping up with basketball as much these days. Buzz Lightyear, the coach at Maryland now.
Best shirt I've seen at a college basketball game, I think probably in my entire life. This could be recency bias, but they play in the Xfinity Center. There was a T-shirt with Buzz Williams' face on Buzz Lightyear's body, and it said "To Xfinity and Beyond."
Wow!
And I almost shoved this person over to steal the shirt off of them. I was so overjoyed by that T-shirt. So.
If they weren't 4-21, that would really slap. Yeah, that would be. You can't have your T-shirt be that much better than your team. So we're transitioning into a Sweet 16 question, but I'm going to throw this in as a little fact that I looked up. I looked up 2 Sweet 16 facts. Since Ohio State, because it goes a tiny bit toward like program, right? Since Ohio State last made the Sweet 16 in 2013, do you want to guess how many of the other current Big Ten teams, so they didn't all make them while they were in the Big Ten, how many of the other 17 teams in the Big Ten, how many of them have made the Sweet 16 since Ohio State last made it? Connor, do you want to guess?
Not really, but I will say, I'll say 8. I'll guess 8. Okay. I was going to look at the list of standings, but you called on me first.
Okay. He said 8. Adam, what's your guess?
I'm going to say 10.
Okay. Landis, what's your guess?
$1, Bob.
Oh,
it is 10. It is 10. Okay. So like that is, Michigan's made it 7 times. Michigan State, Purdue, and UCLA have made it 5. Oregon and Wisconsin made it 4. Maryland made it twice, and Illinois, Indiana, and USC all made it once. And so like the teams, again, like your cohort, the group of teams that like have not, with Ohio State, that have 0 Sweet 16 appearances in the last 11 tournaments: Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, Northwestern, Rutgers, and Penn State. So like that's just like who in that little statistic, who they are lumped in with, which Adam will lead us to the 4th question. What word or phrase would you use to describe the fact that Ohio State's last Sweet 16 appearance was in 2013? I'm
going to go with complicated.
It is good.
Because I do think And I had plenty of time to write this when the whole world was shut down. But like, I do think that the 2020 team would have gotten there. The numbers would tell us that was a top 20 team in adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency at Ken Palm. And there's some, I don't remember it now, I did it at the time, but some crazy stat that like 96% of teams that are top 20 in both like make the Sweet 16. Like that team was balanced. That team was clicking at the right time. I very much believe no COVID-19, that team makes the tournament, or that team makes the Sweet 16. So I think that makes it a little challenging in the context of all this, because then kind of coming out of COVID, like that really did, everything changed, kind of at that point. So certainly they've had enough talent to have made it regardless of that. And when you look at teams playing with Malachi Branham and EJ Liddell and, some of the all conference type of pieces they've had, they should have gotten there at some point. And they haven't. So it's complicated to me, to quote the great Avril Lavigne.
I thought maybe that your answer would be like, it's a champagne supernova, guys. Like, I just can't. So I'm glad you went with a different
That's
position.
2 words. 2 words.
Yeah. So, Connor, how would you describe this Sweet 16 drought?
I would say a little unlucky, but mostly underwhelming. Because like Adam said, maybe a little unlucky because that team that didn't get a chance to play could have done so. And then I thought that also the team that lost to Oral Roberts, that was, I think, a 2 seed. Oral Roberts was a mid-major that when the bracket comes out and they put it up there and people go, oh, because they had Max Asmus, who's like the nation's leading scorer. They have Kevin O'Banner, who turned into a pro, and they get a good 15 seed, a spicy 15 seed. You need to beat the 15 seed, but that 15 seed I thought was armed with more talent than a lot of 15 seeds are. And so unlucky draw, you still have to beat them, but mostly underwhelming because since then they've had 5 years since then. And like Adam said, they've had several pros come through the program, first round picks come through the program, teams that needed to be in the tournament that didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Landis, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think I would say like below the standard is I still understand it, right? Like, I think there's a larger question here that we don't really have on the docket, but it sort of encapsulates all this of like what is Ohio State basketball supposed to be in this modern era. But what it has been is a team that doesn't go that long without making the Sweet 16. I think the longest drought they've had prior to this one was 9 years between was a 71 and 80. So like, it's not a guarantee they make the Sweet 16. And I said this a lot to people during the Chris Holtmann tenure when Holtmann was making it his first couple of years, but they weren't advancing and people were really hungry to see the team advance, that like it is hard to define yourself by how far you advance in a tournament because there is so much unexpected baked into it. Perhaps losing to a team like Oral Roberts just happens to be a bad matchup for you as a 15 seed. So, I would still maybe caution people against doing that. But you also, when you're talking about a decade plus, a place like Ohio State should be able to break through. So the fact that they haven't going on 13 years is certainly below the standard of what I think Ohio State basketball should still be.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about like Connor bringing up the Oral Roberts game, because there's probably like a book to be written about that game and how pivotal that ultimately becomes in Ohio State basketball. But like, if that team also every team has these scenarios, but I always think like if Kyle Young hadn't gotten concussed for like the 5th time and they had Kyle Young in that game, like, they couldn't chase Oral Roberts around. I mean, they had Zed Key trying to like guard like mobile bigs on the perimeter, and Zed hadn't lost any weight at this point. Like it was, certainly Oral Roberts had everything to do with it, but also like Ohio State was really undermanned, and they're coming out of playing in the COVID bubble where they had just gone down to the wire in the Big Ten tournament, lost in overtime in the championship game to Illinois, I believe, and played like 4 games in 4 days in a bubble, and then got moved to a different bubble, and then weirdly had to drive because like the whole tournament was like in Indianapolis, but Ohio State had to drive to West Lafayette to go play that game. There's a lot of weirdness like all around that led into that game. But yeah, if Kyle Young doesn't get concussed in the Big Ten tournament, maybe it's a different story.
They should have just lost to Michigan and gotten a 3 seed instead of a 2 seed.
They wouldn't
have to play Oral Roberts.
And we have seen, you guys know this over the years, like that last game right before the selection show does not matter.
Yeah.
Win, lose. I mean, it matters for pride, certainly, and you want to win a trophy. And that was one of the many opportunities Ohio State's had in the last however many years to win a championship. But like it's not going to affect your seed. Like the committee has shown us that. So yeah, maybe they should have just lost the day before and packed it up.
Yeah. But I do think like too many questions off of that. Could you argue that Ohio State was as affected by the COVID situation as any men's basketball team in the country? Like not just that, like so many teams were denied opportunities in the tournament that was canceled, but then like what it meant to the program and how, Adam, you sort of talked about it, is sort of like changed. I feel like the whole momentum around the program. And then also like, is that Oral Roberts loss the next year, like the most devastating loss in Ohio State basketball history? Now, you could certainly say like, oh, like, you lose to Florida in the national championship game and like stuff like that. But again, like that, because then Oral Roberts makes the Sweet 16, right? Like the paths between those 2 years, like you shut down the tournament 1 year, and then the next year when you're back, you lose as a 2 seed, is like, obviously Holtman never recovered from that, Adam. But like, I think contextually in the whole sport, like, I don't think there's a lot of teams that would be comparable to like how it threw off the program. Also, like worldwide plague, not great for anybody. But like when it comes to college basketball,
the one that I always go with is Dayton, because like you're Ohio State, and like, yes, you had this opportunity and this watershed, and it doesn't happen, but like you should have the resources and the ability to like reload at some point. But like Dayton could have won it all. I mean, you got Obi Toppin, like that team was 29-2. That team was just like, that's the ultimate all-time what if for me, is like, what would the Flyers have done that year in the tournament? I mean, they were so much fun to watch. Maybe who knows? Maybe we would have gotten Ohio State Dayton in the Sweet 16 in like Lexington or something, and it would have been just lit. So yeah, I would make a case for Dayton.
Yeah, that's a good case. Anyone else make a case?
I was sitting here with Dayton in my hand, waiting to make sure that Adam didn't say it. Imagine being a Dayton alum, and that season you're like just steamrolling everybody in the A10, and then you're like, we're going to get a 1 seed, which means we're almost guaranteed to get to the Sweet 16, and then whoop, you can't play Obi Toppin off to the NBA, and they got absolutely nothing from that.
Yeah, I think worse than Ohio State. Yeah,
I do think like that was a good team, that Ohio State team that year, and like they were top 10 Ken Pom. I always thought like Chris Holtman oversold that team's potential a little bit. Like they lost 10 games. they weren't like juggernauts. And I was just looking, Andy Katz that year actually projected the field of what it would have been had they played a tournament. They were a 6 seed. It wasn't like they were going to be a top 4 seed or like even vying for a 1 seed. Like it was certainly the best team that Chris Holtman had, and a team that could have had some success that I think would have kind of softened what happened on the other side of it, even if everything remained the same on the other side of that. But I don't know that it was like, boy, Ohio State would have won a national title that year.
No. I always thought like they would have been like a 5 seed, and they probably would have been a trendy 5-12 upset pick. But I felt like they were going to be in a position where they would have a chance to make it to the second.
Yeah. And Bill, to your point, I looked up that same thing about the Sweet 16 drought. So the tournament expanded to 16 teams in 1951, and then Ohio State made the Sweet 16 in 1990. So like, as you said, like they've never gone a decade without not playing in the Sweet 16 until now. So it's been 11 tournaments without the Sweet 16, and this is one of these things. And I think what is Ohio State basketball supposed to be is one of the enduring conversations around Ohio State athletics. When they're good, you have that conversation. When they're mediocre, you have that conversation. When they're not good, you have that conversation. This monolith like looms over everything in the new era. Can you be good at both? Like this is a never-ending, fascinating conversation about Ohio State basketball, but this is the biggest drought ever. And that I do think when you're trying to define like what should they be, like it's not this, like I think like this is whatever it is. it's at least a little better than this. Adam, is that fair to say? And again, it's not that Ohio State's supposed to be a top 25 team every year, but this has never happened ever to Ohio State basketball.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate way to look at it. Like, it should have happened at some point. In some ways, like, there's some parallels to, like, how is the Big Ten like not won a championship since Michigan State won it 26 years ago? And it's like,
right.
I mean, how many Big Ten teams have gotten to the championship game and lost and like been right there and just like it's not like, oh, they're never getting there. They're just not winning it. And it's like they've had some unfortunate luck, certainly. They've not built together or built talented enough, deep enough rosters, in this era to put themselves in position to do those kinds of things. But I guess to the larger picture, like, Doug, one of my favorite things you always used to cite, and I had to go back and look it up, but back when Thad had it rolling, I did the math again. So Thad won 5 Big Ten titles in his first 8 years. And prior to Thad getting there, Ohio State had won 5 Big Ten titles in his previous 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes this so difficult to wrap our arms around, because you have these pockets where it's elite. I mean, for that 8-year stretch was as good as anybody in the country in those 8 years. But Ohio State's not that consistently. And they're not what football is either. So it puts them in this like very difficult to define middle ground where they should be better than what they've been, but they probably shouldn't be what I think maybe the average fan expects, because they're Ohio State fans and they think it's their birthright. So it makes it's a difficult conversation.
It really is. And we would do 7 hours on this show if we tried to dive any deeper into that. So we'll move to our final question. Connor, we'll start with you for this one. If you could change one thing about Ohio State basketball or add one thing to Ohio State basketball, like whether it for the program, for the, like, I don't know, could be like they changed the drinks in the arena, like whatever, like what's the thing that you could just change about Buckeye hoops that might make a difference?
Okay, I'll take the low-hanging fruit and say that they played in a actual basketball arena. I wish I could have been in the room in April of 1996 when I actually wasn't born until 9 months later, so that's problematic.
Don't do that.
But
don't do that.
if I was in the room in 1996 when they were getting ready to do the groundbreaking for the shot, I wish I could make a PowerPoint for them, which also didn't exist in 1996, so that's tough. But say these are all the reasons why this isn't going to work, because I genuinely think that if they played in an actual basketball specific arena, Ohio State would probably pick up 1 to 2 extra home wins per year. And what a difference that would make over the course of time if every year they pick up an additional 1 to 2 wins. And that's just from, I can't go to every road game because this isn't my full-time job, but the chances that I've had to go to Indiana, go to Purdue, go to Michigan State, and you walk in and the band is sitting in the bleachers and they're going crazy. And then when Michigan State or Indiana goes on a 6-0 run or something, and it feels like the building's going to fall apart, Adam, you know what it's like. There are points in those games where Ohio State may only be down by 8 and you go, this game's over. It's over. Ohio State never gets that kind of boost at home because the shot doesn't allow it. And I could go on forever about the shot, but that's my answer.
Okay. It's interesting because, like, the case you're making, Connor, is that it affects the actual basketball. It affects they would have a better record and win a couple more games a year because the environment would allow them to do so. And everyone's allowed to say the same thing. If you want to say the same thing, you don't have to find something different, Bill.
Yeah, I mean that's my answer. Because I think, like, I was talking to somebody at the game on Sunday about like, boy, it'd be nice if they could get a crowd like this all the time. I was like, well, the team has to earn that, I think, is the primary motivator there. But also, like, if you had a place that's like fun to go watch a game, people would show up even if you weren't great. Like, and I was sitting there on press row, like looking up at the rafters, thinking to myself, like, could they just lop the top section of this building off and bring the roof down and then just have that be the arena? Like, what's it hold? It holds like 19,000 or almost 19,000. I was looking at the capacities of college basketball arenas earlier today, and it's among the biggest. And the programs that are bigger are like Kentucky and UNC, which like have no problem getting people in their building, sort of no matter what. Like, the idea that a program like this that is sometimes it's elite, and like when the Schott is packed, it's great, but it's rarely packed. And even when it is packed, like it's not a modern arena. It has no charm. It's not a fun place to go watch a game. It doesn't compare to much of what the rest of the Big Ten offers and what the rest of major college basketball offers. And like Cincinnati's got a brand new thing down there that's awesome. And like Northwestern's renovated arena is awesome. And the Schott sucks. Like it's really bad. It's not even good for concerts. Like they built it for concerts. It's not even a good place to go see a show. Generally, it's just an old arena. And like not in a like charming kind of folksy way that old arenas can be sometimes. So, does it drastically change the outlook for the program? I don't know. I think Connor's right. I do think a different home environment would probably get Ohio State an extra win or two. I think it would be more appealing to the players they're talking to about like, hey, look at this place that we play in. Isn't this cool? So it doesn't, maybe, I don't know if that's where success, different success starts for the program, but if I could knock that place to the ground and build them a real basketball arena tomorrow, I would definitely do it.
Hey, Ross, I'm no architect, but what would it take to just lower the roof? It's worth asking. Adam Jardy, is this your answer as well? You have something else?
Well, basically, yes. To two things that you guys both brought up, because I looked this up, Bill, as you were talking. It's the 9th largest capacity in the country. The schools that have basketball or that have arenas that are bigger: Syracuse, Louisville, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgetown, Kentucky, NC State, Arkansas, and then Ohio State. It's the biggest arena in the Big Ten. And Connor, to your point, like I can't tell you how many times like you'll see Ohio State play somebody on the road, and it's packed and it's loud and they're in your like go to watch Ohio State play at Rutgers. And it's packed to the rafters, and it is hard to win there, even if Rutgers is garbage, because they are on you and they are into it, and it is loud and it's all those things. And then Rutgers comes to Ohio State, and there's 11,000 people in a 19,000 seat arena, and it's not that. And so Ohio State gets the unfortunate end of like go on the road and play in these hostile environments, and then that same team comes to Columbus and doesn't get that. And Connor, to your point, like if we could go back to 1996 and flip things, I did some research on this when it came up to the 25th anniversary of the Schott, and really the way that like the Schott was conceived, had the Blue Jackets existed or been thought of 6 months, 8 months earlier, we would not have the Jerome Schottenstein Center as we know it, because there's no reason to have two essentially identical multi-purpose facilities within like 4 miles of each other. Like it's actually kind of insane. Like if you take a 50,000 foot view of Columbus, that we have these two arenas that do the same thing that are that close to each other. Had the Blue Jackets been a realistic possibility a year before they would have come up with nationwide, and presumably Ohio State would have then been like, well, we don't need a big multi-purpose whatever to compete with the other arena right down the road. We're going to build a basketball arena, and then we'd all be so much happier. Life would be better. But like, I think my overall answer to the question would just be to prioritize basketball in a way that it just doesn't seem to be. Like, we can talk about the arena. We can talk about like how much they actually can spend from an NIL standpoint. Can talk about like just they have the lamest national championship banner in the entire history of national championship banners. Like you go in that arena, and it's because they don't want to block the sight lines or whatever for concerts. But like they have this giant banner that says national champions, and it says 1960 in like this big font.
It's super small.
And like you could go down the list. There's so many things like that, but like they just need if they want to turn it around, or maybe turn around is too strong of a phrase, but like if they want it to be where like it's consistently going to the Sweet 16 and pushing for championships and all those things, like they've got to prioritize it in a degree that they're not, and they're behind from a financial standpoint. They're behind from, frankly, a resources standpoint. Like leading into this Michigan game, they never practiced in the Schott. They like that main court that Ohio State had to play on. They were never able to practice on it because Andrea Bocelli's world tour was starting in Columbus, and they had the arena for the entire week. because they had to run through dress rehearsals. All the people were flying in. Like they practiced in their practice gym, and that was it. So like Ohio State didn't practice on the main floor at the Schottenstein Center since before the Wisconsin game. And then you're playing the number 2 team in the country at home on your main floor, and Michigan has taken as many shots in there as Ohio State in the last like 9 days. So like we could come up with a long list of things like that it's just, you have to put, if you want it to get where you want it to be, you gotta put the resources behind it. And I just don't think Ohio State, they kind of do, but they could do more.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Sorry, I know. Like I'm not going to ask. Should they play at St. John? Could they play at Covelli? I know it's small, but could you just get 6,000 of the people who care the absolute most about Ohio State basketball in Covelli and play there?
They played there during COVID.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, with no fans.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
would they be willing to give up the ticket revenue when they can charge $40 or $50 a pop to only sell 6,000 tickets?
Yeah, that's probably the answer, right? They'd rather have 11,000 people and have the building be half empty than 6,000 people and have it be full. But yeah. I don't know. Like this, do the optics not matter at all? Like it's embarrassing sometimes to see what that building is, and like their like game day shticks that they try to do to create an atmosphere are lame. Like it's just nothing about it feels like college basketball. It feels like a G League game.
You don't want a free T-shirt?
I don't want a free T-shirt. No,
you mean
I don't
you've
care.
You've never won the Great Clips Who's Got the Best Hair of the Day camera?
Nope. Well, I'm envious of all the people who actually have hair to win. Maybe that's what it is.
Man, that's a lot of good reasons, man. The Blue Jackets, Italian singers, haircut promotions.
We solved it.
Yeah, problem solved. This has been an interesting basketball conversation. I mean, I do like this team is not as good as Ohio State basketball fans want them to be, but like it's pretty interesting, which is one of those of like your average team is interesting to talk about. Congratulations to all the fans out there. But it is like there's a lot to this. And I do think it's not just like, oh, they lost and like they stink. You know, and I understand why fans are frustrated, of course.
Sure.
Fans pour their heart and souls into these programs and they care a lot and they want the teams to be good. But Adam, you gave complicated as like one of your answers during the show. And it's like, I think like the whole thing is complicated. I think we could have said complicated for our answers to almost everything in this show.
It's why I don't sleep.
Can I ask these guys a question? Because I know there are many people who would say if they could change one thing about the program, it would be the coach. And, you know, it'd be one thing for me to say like, yeah, do it. I'm not there every day. You guys are there every day. You have a better feel for where the program is, the job that Jake Diebler is doing. And I'm not saying like, should he be fired? Should he not? I guess I would just ask both of you, like, what do you think of the job that he's doing right now running the program?
Connor, you want to go first?
Yeah. I don't think that he has. I know that Ross Bjork does his review every year, and that last year he said, you know, he's met expectation. I don't know how many fans Ross Bjork talks to, and is it willing to sit down and say, what do you think about the basketball program, and talk to an average person from Columbus or Toledo or Cincinnati or whatever. I don't think that Jake Diebler has met the expectations of Ohio State basketball the first 2 years. And I think if you asked Jake, he probably would also say that, like, and just in the press conference, he said, like, the standard that we want is here, and we're trying to get there. But I don't think he's done a horrendous job. And you were talking about fire, don't fire. I don't think that he's done a poor enough job that they are going to or should can him after 2 seasons. But there's a standard that I don't think that they have met. But I also don't think that this season's over yet. And I don't know if you can fully assess his job this season when there's still 10-ish games left.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jardy?
I think that's an excellent point, because like we don't ultimately know what this season is going to be. And like if this team, as we both said, like if they beat the teams we think they're going to beat, and then they pick off somebody, like they're going to be in the tournament, and then what are we kind of talking about? And yeah, it's not where Jake wants it to be. It's not where the fans expect it to be. But also, like, you did hire a coach with no head coaching experience, and it's not like they've like said, okay, here's the keys to everything. Like, go nuts. Like he's trying to do this with limited resources, and like, you know, it is what it is, and it's what you sign up for. But when you do have I think there has to be like an element of just like, you understand this is going to be a little bit of a process when you hire a new coach, someone who has no head coaching experience. And if you want to argue about, well, should that have been the hire in the first place? Okay, fine. That's a whole separate conversation. But like, when you hire someone who's never been a head coach, and it's not like, I mean, if this season or last season was like what Buzz Williams is doing in Maryland, like, okay, people, like, let's, but like, they've been good. They haven't been good enough yet. But I do think there's like growth on the job. I don't think it's been abjectly terrible, like Twitter will tell you. And I guess, yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But I think you have to expect like growing pains and a process here of hiring a new coach, a first-year coach at a job like Ohio State.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And you can't go through life with, you know, expecting more from something than what you put into it, right? Like your output can't be 100 when your input is 50. And so whether it's a first-time head coach, whether it's what they are or are not doing with NIL and all those other resources, when you have a football program to support, it is a very complicated conversation. I do think it's an interesting last 8 games. That this is, in the end, what fans want is like games that matter. Like, yeah. I want my team to matter. And if you have not been locked into Ohio State basketball, this would be an interesting time to get locked in, because they have this stretch where like the season's on the line. So everything they do is going to matter immensely. And we have some of the best people around covering it. Connor Lamons from Land Grant Holy Land. Where can the people find you? What can they expect? You got anything popping coming up? And just like, again, for people who are like, man, I love this other French guy, where can they make sure they follow your coverage?
LandGrantHolyland.com is where all the written stuff's going to be. And then also with Land Grant, we do a weekly college basketball podcast, myself and one of the other writers named Justin, called Bucketheads. That's on Thursdays. And then this season, I've also been putting together a quick 20-minute like intro podcast episode before like the morning of every game. So like you're driving to the arena, you're driving home from work, that kind of thing. So there's some audio podcasting stuff you can get on Spotify, but LandGrantHolyland.com, all the written stuff. And then my Twitter is @Lamons_Connor if you want to follow me there. Okay.
And Adam Jardy, you've been doing it forever, man. Where can the fine folks find your coverage there at the Dispatch and beyond?
You can find it at dispatch.com. I've got the podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the Buckeye Extra men's basketball podcast. I've got Instagram, hoops_and_scoops, which I inherited that name when that was, I think about changing it on like a weekly basis. When the Dispatch used to have blogs separate from stories, the basketball blog was called Hoops and Scoops. So when Bob Baptist retired and I started covering the team, I took that name and made it Instagram. Cause it's like, okay. And it's unwieldy. I probably need to fix it.
Okay.
But every time it pops up on my feed, I get mad that it's not about ice cream. So change the name or start talking about ice cream.
Fair. Okay. I'll take that. Currently soliciting names for the new one. Maybe it should just be my TikTok handle is CD Adam Jardy, Columbus Dispatch Adam. So like maybe I just need to borrow that and make it that, and shout out to CD 101 because that little nod to those guys too. But yeah, you can find it's everywhere. I don't know.
I thought that was because you like CDs. Yeah. Okay. As someone who my first Twitter handle was OSU Sports from PD. So I've been there, brother. I've been there with the tough social media names, and you can bounce back from it. Adam and Connor, thank you so much for your time and your expertise on this. And Bill Landis, you're writing about the Buckeye basketball team also over at the Bill and Doug Substack.
I am, yeah, but let's be honest, not as well as these guys do. So make sure you're following what they're doing, covering this team every day. Yeah.
And
Bill,
again,
we're glad to have you there, man.
Oh, that's so nice. And if anybody wants to talk about David Lighty or Jared Sullinger or whatever, like, give me a shout. So thanks to you guys for taking time out of your busy days. We would encourage you to follow what Adam and Connor are doing as the Buckeyes hit the home stretch here. But for now, for Adam and Connor, for Bill Landis, I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was Around the Schott on the Bill and Doug Show.